Alright, another day, Tuesday today. I didn't get this video up like I planned yesterday. I just went out and actually tried to improve a really bad part of the road like 4 miles away. It took me all day, and then I pretty much slept the rest of the evening. So here we are out in the field. This right here I haven't shown you yet, but it's an enclosed basically grow area that we have set up here. And this is where we're going to grow the forage for the chickens. So our plan is to, right here where I'm standing, in this area here, have another square of fence connected with kind of a pass between on this section of fence here that we can open after the crops grow within this area, and they can have at it. And so I have an IBC tote way back there on the hill full of water, and I have a hose irrigation line running down into a ditch so it can, with its end lower than the IBC tote, that's why it's a depression right here, so it can actually draw water through it much better with a tiny bit of gravity pressure. And right now in the corners there, like piled up against the fence, you can see I have fertilizer, this is something called Kick. It's an organic compost amendment by a local company here. And then I have 2 stacks of fertilizer, which is 2 tractor bucketfuls each, and then 4 bucketfuls of, I guess you could say, chopped straw or chopped hay from the goats of my neighbor's farm. And I have all those there so I can basically work it into this huge area here, which is roughly 25 feet by 65 feet. Definitely not exact. So this is where we're going to grow the forage for the chickens and the hens and the guineas. And I guess anything else that comes along that wants to have a nibble that we end up adopting. Okay, so here's the actual field that was cut. I just started at the opposite end of where I am now and reversed in the tractor with the box scraper blade down. And it kind of acted like a bulldozer, just pushing everything backwards. You know, the topography is not perfect. I'm just walking it now. It's slanted this way. But the main thing is that it's flat without a bunch of hills and valleys like it had before. There's a big depression coming up. I'm not sure if you can see it, but it took about maybe 2 hours or something like that to go back and forth, back and forth. There's tons of sagebrush and stuff in it, and I just wanted to work it as nicely as I could. So it's the exact same length as the enclosure. So it's 65 feet long. And then it's about 4 buckets wide, which is 16 feet wide. So it's slightly smaller than this one over here. Then I came back and I got the manure that we been stockpiling since we got here, and we cleaned the neighbor's goat pen out and got this manure. And I just dumped it in a row. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back and spread it out with a rake, and then that's going to be my row. And so I have 1 row right now, and I need to get a second and a third row established. But I'm going to be using different compost for different things, so I'm not going to do the manure on every one. I'm going to come back with straw on another and just try planting directly in the sand. I know it's kind of risky, but I just want to see what happens. And so I'll do a small portion of my crop just in sand, maybe actually an entire row just in sand, so I can have it separated. But this is it. This is what I worked on doing. And hopefully I get to put it to use soon. I also have the irrigation system purchased, and I'm going to set that up over there. I'm going to have a second IBC tote, connect them together, and then have one giant header running across both of these planting zones that then distributes the drip tubing this way. I haven't set anything up like that before, but I'm hoping it'll go okay. I'm definitely behind, but I mean, I hate to say it, but this big of a plot's actually an experimental crop just to see what can grow here when it's supposed to grow, and if it's viable for me to, I guess, plant en masse and harvest and try to sell. So, yep. That's what I'm going to do today. Hopefully knock this out, get the irrigation system installed on that side, get the header installed for both of these, maybe some drip line run, we'll see, and definitely the fertilizer spread. That's a good goal. I don't know what you got planned for your project today, but hopefully something fun and productive. If not, don't worry about it, because it's always another day. Alright, so I've been at it for about 20 minutes or so, not even a long time really, and I already have most of the second row established. I'm trying not to drive or even walk on the field too much where stuff's going to be planted, so you can see the tractor tracks coming up right here, right to the, basically where a row starts, and then I just dump the bucket, which ends up being a couple feet away that direction. And so then I guess my test bed with sand only is probably going to be the closest to the fence, because it's going to be really hard to get basically anything in there except a wheelbarrow to put any type of fertilizer on. So I'll just make that my sand only test. Excuse me. So I only have a couple left here, and then I'll have the second row fertilizer established. Then I'm going to get to the sprinklers. Alright, so I'm here inside the forage garden, I guess you could call it. The mini forage field. And I'm trying to get the sprinkler set up. Now, I know sprinklers aren't the best system, but I've got to get something that can keep the entire large area wet immediately until I can get the correct dripper line set up. So this is temporary-ish, but if it works good enough, so be it. This is just for food, and you know, this is going to be having a very specific forage crop put in it, like daikon radish, hairy vetch, a legume family, and a clover as well. So it's a high nitrogen fixer, as well as something that'll introduce a lot of organic matter into this once the chickens come in here and tear through it, as well as feeding them at the same time. So this area that I'm in right now will eventually be used for another crop, but I'm currently going to be using it for the chicken feed to, I guess, as a kind of a test, see how much organic matter green manure, i.e. mowed down cover crop, can make a difference, as opposed to just putting manure on the field like traditionally. So what I have here is this red hose comes directly from the tow. It's just a standard garden hose. And this little sprinkler got like an inline sprinkler. You can put a hose into it on one side and then connect the hose to the other side and continue on. It's a 30-foot sprinkler, and so I'm thinking that means 15 each way. So I've measured about 15 feet-ish here, and I'm going to go ahead and cut this hose a little extra so I can give myself some play back and forth just in case it's off. And then I'm going to add one of these make your own hose fittings into it and see how that turns out. And then continue on the merry way to that right there, which is the end sprinkler. And it's also 30 feet. And hopefully that should be enough to keep this entire area moist enough to have the crop start and continue on for forage. Alright, so here we go. I got the new hose end installed on the red hose, installed into the back of the inline sprinkler, and you can see here it's the standard hose thread, so I can now put the female end on the red hose there and connect it here. And then I need to basically cut back from the end of the reel so I can just use the existing hose fitting as opposed to have to install another one. But yeah, I gave myself a little room there so I can move it back probably plus or minus 3 feet just in case. And that's that. Now you might be asking yourself, why ruin a perfectly good hose Well, you know, this hose here, it's like 100 feet long. It cost me 25 bucks. It's 5/8 inch diameter, has good brass fittings on it. They're not cheap at all. I mean, it's, you know, a medium align hose, medium grade or whatever. For 25 bucks, you really can't beat that. If I need multiple hoses and like multiple 25-foot hoses, it's going to cost me way more than 25 bucks. And so I'll also have some leftover hose that I can just make short leader hoses that you always end up needing for irrigation. So my suggestion is, if you end up needing multiple short runs of hose, just get yourself a 100-foot reel and some fittings, which are really cheap, like $2 a piece, believe it or not. And that's that. Just make your own hoses. They work really good. They don't leak as long as you get the right kind of fitting, which I will show you exactly what kind that is. This one here. Goodness. Solid brass, has a gasket in there if it's female. Solid metal fitting here with screws in it, okay? Also, it's called a compression fitting, believe it or not. It's just a tapered fitting that goes into the inside of the hose, and then this crimps around it. So this is the best style to get. They don't leak in my experience. So yeah, now on to the next step of cutting another hose and running it all the way to the other sprinkler there. And then I'm going to hook up the pump and test it. Alright, so I just did the sprinkler test, and let's just say there's some issues. I stole the pump from our main water supply. I got this battery here that powers the pump, a little solar panel. It's not charging currently, obviously. And then I have it drawn from this IBC tote here. And this is the radius of water that I got from him. I think that's like 18 inches. They're just dumping out water. It's not even really a sprinkler. So I don't really know what to do, I guess. I think maybe it's too low a PSI. It's 45 PSI pump though. Maybe these require like 90 PSI. Not really sure. So we're going to go ahead and skip this for now. Alright, so I got most of the most of the irrigation work done for the actual field for the potatoes, onions, and garlic. And so here's the header, which is going to be 5/8 drip tubing. And I have, it's going to be 3 rows, so I have 3 branches. And if I grab a branch here, not yet connected, but it tees off the main line. Alright, so here's the actual connection to the drip line for the 50-foot row, or 65-foot row rather. So I have here a teed connection, and it's just 5/8 drip tubing. These are called like Permalock connections. They're really nice. Just easy twist on. Then we have just an on-off valve right here, and it allows me to control if I want certain rows to get watered or not, depending on the conditions. Then it just ends here with a cap, and then this fitting right here is how I actually get the 1/4-inch drip tubing connected. So it's called like a piercing saddle connector, and it's really awesome and pretty easy to use. So you just essentially stab it on the 5/8 fitting, and then right here at this point you connect your 1/4-inch drip line. And I'm still ordering that, but I'm going to get a couple 100-foot rolls with emitters every 6 inches. And so I will have every 6 inches on the 100 feet a drip of water coming out. And then I have that done times 3 for the 3 rows that I'm going to have. This row isn't established yet, but it will get there soon. So now I just have to design the other part of it connecting to the pump, and hope everything goes well. I think that's about it for me today, and we'll see what tomorrow brings. And actually, one more thing I decided to do just before I call it quits. Drop off the hay, which is going to be used for mulch on every single row. I might have overdone it with the 4 bales, but...
Run over his line.
Yes, and I went over my line. As you can see, this hay bale here in the center is dead on top of the row. I was trying to get it outside, but it didn't work out very well. So hopefully I'll be able to use this in the next week. I'm going to mulch heavily because these are winter crops, and although most of them are frost hardy, just want to make sure that they get that little extra bit of protection just so they do survive all the way through the season. So now that's it for me for real. Time to go inside. Sun's going down. Have a good evening.